The Robinson family got lost in space.
Yeah, the series was set in the far future, 1997.
Yeah.
Do you have a name?
My name's Will Robinson, sir. And I'm not a toy, I'm a boy.
Oh, nonsense.
What if I told you the beloved 1960s sci-fi show Lost in Space was hiding a wild vault of secrets? Behind the shiny suits and cheesy aliens was chaos romances no one knew about, props borrowed from Star Trek, and a talking carrot that nearly ended the series. A live llama spit on the cast, the robot cost $70,000, and the villain who stole the show. He wasn't even in the original script. This isn't just nostalgia, this is the outrageous, untold truth of Lost in Space like you've never heard before. Ready to go deeper? Let's launch. Take, for instance, one of the show's most infamous episodes, The Great Vegetable Rebellion. In it, the Robinson family faced off against a giant talking carrot named Hypoascension Vegetable determined to turn humans into plants. Even die-hard fans cringed. Behind the scenes, writer Peter Packer was so embarrassed by the script that he tried to keep it hidden from actor Jonathan Harris. And if that wasn't strange enough, the original plan included a live llama, which had to be removed because it wouldn't stop spitting on the cast. The episode aired just a week before the show was canceled and is now remembered as a symbol of just how far the show had spiraled into absurdity. What makes this even more fascinating is that one of the show's most iconic characters, Dr. Zachary Smith, wasn't even supposed to be a mainstay. He wasn't in the original pilot and was initially written as a villain who would sabotage the mission and then quickly exit the story, but Jonathan Harris saw potential. He transformed the character from a one-note saboteur into a hilarious, melodramatic centerpiece with dramatic flair and catchphrases like "Oh, the pain." Dr. Smith became the heart of the show. His popularity was so undeniable that he remained central for the entire run, shifting the tone of the series toward humor. Off camera, Harris was equally clever. He made a bold request to be credited as a special guest star in every single episode. It was an unusual move, especially since he appeared in every show, but it worked. The title elevated both his character and his real-world status, setting him apart from the rest of the cast and adding prestige to his role. Meanwhile, a real-life love story was unfolding between Billy Mumy and Angela Cartwright, who played Will Robinson and Penny Robinson, respectively. They met as young actors on set, became close friends, and eventually fell in love. By the time Mumy got his driver's license, the two were seriously dating and even got engaged after the series ended. Though they eventually grew apart, their friendship endured for decades. This personal connection gave their on-screen sibling dynamic and authentic layer that fans never suspected. The version of Lost in Space that made it to air wasn't what the creators originally envisioned. In the unaired pilot titled No Place to Hide, the story was a serious space drama without Dr. Smith or the robot. The Robinsons were thrown off course by a meteor storm, not sabotage, and the tone was grounded and more mature, but network executives felt it lacked flair. So they added Dr. Smith and the robot to characters who would become essential to the show's identity. Here's a little-known twist in television history. CBS had to choose between Lost in Space and Star Trek, and they went with the former. At the time, Irwin Allen's show seemed more marketable, with its family adventure format and colorful visuals. While Lost in Space premiered in 1965 and initially enjoyed high ratings, it burned out quickly. Star Trek, on the other hand, struggled. At first on NBC, but later exploded into a legendary franchise. One can only wonder what science fiction might look like today if CBS had chosen differently. Let's not forget the show's technical and financial gambles. The robot, officially called Robot B9, cost a staggering $70,000 to build, a massive amount for the 1960s. It was designed by Robert Kinoshita, who also created Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet. The suit weighed almost 200 pounds, and Bob May, the stuntman inside, got the part simply because he could fit. Operating it was no easy feat. The lights on the chest, controlled manually from inside using May's head to push a hidden button. That's right, no remote control, just headbutts and muscle memory. Speaking of impressive props, the spaceship Jupiter had a fictional cost of $30 billion within the show's universe, portraying it as the pinnacle of futuristic space travel. In reality, the set cost $350,000 to build, making it one of the most expensive TV sets of its time. What added to the authenticity? Real Burroughs Beta 05 computers were used to make the controls look advanced. These weren't cardboard props, they were actual machines used by the US government and research labs. Despite the expensive sets, The production had to get creative to stretch its budget. Props were constantly recycled, a scanner used in the derelict later popped up in the ghost planet and deadliest of the species, each time repainted or relabeled. Even the alien prosthetics were shared with Star Trek. That's right, pointy ears from Vulcans made their way onto Lost in Space aliens, showing just how intertwined the two productions really were. The show's roots trace back further than most people realize. Lost in Space was loosely based on the 1960 Gold Key comic Space Family Robinson, which itself was inspired by the 1812 novel The Swiss Family Robinson. Irwin Allen struck a deal with the comics publishers to use the concept, blending the survival story with a sci-fi twist. Later, Allen revisited the original idea and produced a TV movie version of The Swiss Family Robinson in 1975, this time set on an island rather than in space. It starred Martin Milner, Willie Alms, and a young Helen Hunt, though it never reached the popularity of its futuristic predecessor. One of the show's most overlooked aspects was its costume design. Paul Zastavnovich, the show's wardrobe designer, received recognition from the Costume Designers Guild in 1968 for his bold, futuristic looks, from shiny silver fabrics to unique patterns. His designs helped give the show its signature space-age feel. Costume changes matched the evolving tone of the series, and the visuals became part of what made the show iconic. Behind the scenes, not everyone was thrilled with how the show evolved. Guy Williams, who played John Robinson, expected a serious, dramatic role akin to his previous work on Zorro. But as the series leaned more into comedy, especially with the rising popularity of Dr. Smith and the robot, Williams found his role diminished. Frustrated, he quietly left the entertainment industry and moved to Argentina, where he lived out the rest of his life. Ironically, his work gained newfound fame in South America, where Zorro became incredibly popular. Another underappreciated contributor was Dick Tuffeld, the voice of the robot. Not only did he deliver iconic lines like Danger, Will Robinson, but he also served as the show's narrator, guiding audiences into and out of each intergalactic misadventure. His commanding voice helped ground even the most ridiculous episodes in a sense of urgency and drama. As for Billy Mumy, his sci-fi journey didn't end with Lost in Space. Years later, he appeared in an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine titled The Siege of AR-558, where he played Kellen, a hardened Starfleet officer. It was a gritty role that showcased his growth as an actor and served as a poetic connection between the pillars of classic science fiction. Finally, no discussion of Lost in Space is complete without mentioning its music. Long before becoming the legendary composer of Star Wars, Jaws, and E.T., a young John Williams, then known as Johnny Williams, was hired at age 33 to compose the show's theme. Instead of relying on stock sound effects or simple cues, Williams delivered a full, orchestral score that gave the series a cinematic feel. His bold melodies added gravitas to the most outlandish plots and helped elevate the series above its campy reputation. The theme song went through different versions over the seasons, but Williams' musical fingerprint remained consistent. It added emotional weight and continuity to a show that was often a whirlwind of tone and plot. The experience helped shape his unique style and served as a stepping stone to the career that would define movie soundtracks for generations. Looking back, Lost in Space was more than just a cheesy sci-fi series. It was a melting pot of innovation, mistakes, risks, and brilliance. Behind the rubber aliens and blinking lights was a story about creativity, survival, and reinvention. It gave us legendary characters, unforgettable catchphrases, and even helped launch one of cinema's greatest musical careers. From giant carrots to genius composers, Lost in Space was more than sci-fi. It was a whirlwind of wild choices, unexpected brilliance, and unforgettable characters. Whether you laughed, cringed, or gasped, one thing's clear: this show left its mark. Thanks for watching. And if you love uncovering classic TV secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next deep dive.